Yeah, self-effacing humor is great. So I'm going to welcome my colleague, Lori Perkins. Lori.
Thank you, Kathy. And so before I start, I want to just apologize if I am not at the top of my game. I had my COVID vaccine number 2 yesterday afternoon and texted my boss this morning to say that I felt like I'd been run over by a truck.
Ah,
So it's not quite at the top of my game, but I'm excited to be a part of this. And I didn't want to miss this. And I thank you for the opportunity.
thank you.
So yes, I'm the deputy director at the Birmingham Zoo. I won't go too much into my journey. I've sort of worked my way up through the ranks in zoos, and am very content at this level and at this institution. That's one of the things that I was thinking about the ELDP program when Nick and Kath and Sherry were talking about that. It often, I think the program can show us what we don't want as well as what we do want. And I love this role. This is the sweet spot, I think. So anyway, yeah, Kathy, you can go to the next slide and I'll go through my 10 points. If I tip over, somebody please call 911. So the first thing is actually something from the ELDP program, and it's about being honest with your internal story. I think that it is really important to say out loud the things that you're saying inside your own head. I think it's really the most direct way to validate or to invalidate what you're thinking, and to help clarify your words to others. I think almost every time I have said, "Oh my God, I was so afraid everybody thought I was an idiot," what I've actually heard is, "No, that's exactly what I was thinking too. I'm so glad that you said it out loud." I think you have to learn to not be afraid to share what's inside. And I think it brings you to a place of more honesty as well. I think that you have to remember to be selectively vulnerable, however, because there's always the risk of oversharing. It's important to be brave enough to show authentic vulnerability and to show that you're a real person. Because I think that's the fastest route to building trust, but I think going too far can have the opposite effect and cause people to lose faith in you. If what you're sharing aloud is, "Oh my God, I have no idea what to do. This is terrifying. What are we going to do?" That might be accurate, and it might show you to be an honest and vulnerable human being, but it also is likely to fill your team with the same fear that you're feeling and cause them to lose faith in you as a leader. So you don't need to spill everything. It's about being authentic, I think. This next one, number 3, has been certainly for me something that has been very tough to absorb. The fact that that nothing that you do, nothing that anyone else does is because of you. We've all heard this a million times that, I can't control what happens to me, but I can control how I respond to it. It's certainly for me very much easier said than done. But if you don't keep that in mind, I think what you can find yourself doing is dancing around things and couching your language and steering your words based on what you think the reaction is going to be. And I think that is just a recipe for obfuscation and for lack of clarity. And what it leads to is the lesson of point number 4 about using fewer words. I think anyone that knows me knows that this is one of my biggest downfalls. I am so busy oversharing and couching my language and using many, many syllables to deliver a message. I should have said actually at the beginning of this, and again, sorry, I'm going to blame the COVID vaccine. I don't think I've learned all of these things. I think these are things that I continue to practice over and over and over again. And I will keep doing that for my entire career. I am not great at, as you can see, at stopping talking when it's time to stop talking, but I do think that it's an impulse that's important to try to control. I think the more that you try to clarify your point, sometimes you can be obscuring the point. So being concise and just saying what you need to say without fear of the reaction, of what the reaction is going to be, can really help minimize misunderstandings and unnecessary drama. Point number 5 is one that I have stolen from our VP of development here at the Birmingham Zoo, because I think it's really, really critical. In addition to being real and authentic, I think this is really the other main way to build trust in your team. It's not about saying do this or do this please, ideally, but it's about saying do this, and because if you do, these other things will happen. I think this is certainly for me, I found it to be especially useful in asking for deadlines. I get much greater compliance when I take the time to explain that the reason I need to hear from you by this certain time is because of these other things that are going to happen as a result of that. And I think it also, it's a very simple way of inviting people into the larger picture, giving them greater awareness and understanding of the role that they play in that bigger picture. And I think that's empowering. It also allows me a legit reason to use more words. So it works out great. Give more than you ask. So again, I will put the caveat out there that I don't know that I have always done a great job of this, but I think this is, again, about building trust. I think that if I show my team that I'm willing to shoulder my share of the load, it's going to encourage them to perform well as well too. I think that leadership needs to be about inspiring people to move forward, not driving them from the rear. I think this has been a real challenge in this past year, in part because, or in large part, because I've been primarily working from home. Well, most of my teams are operational and have to be on site. And I think that I've probably lost some ground here, and we'll have some work to do to make that up because I haven't shown them what I think would be the ideal form of leadership. Apologize when you make a mistake. I think this is very simple and obvious. I think it's, don't rationalize, don't blame, don't explain all the reasons why it really wasn't your fault. You just have to own it and move on. I think it's another place where using fewer words is important. We all know how insincere it feels when somebody goes on and on and on with an apology and beating themselves up. I think you just say, you know what, I screwed up. This is the mistake I made. This is the consequence, and I'm really sorry for the impact that it had on you. And you get on with your day. Even if you're going to spend the next few sleepless nights roiling in guilt about it, it's simpler, it's better to just be straightforward about it. Trusting yourself. I think that you know, when I was sort of putting this together in a certain order, I was thinking that roiling and guilt part is what makes me feel like I can trust my instincts, even if my instincts overdo it sometimes. When I feel guilty, it's usually for a reason. Even if it's not something that I need to be unendingly berating myself for, it's usually a reason. And by the same token, when I feel proud of myself, I also get to feel that. That's usually there for a reason too. I think trusting what your feelings are telling you, even against any backdrop of self-doubt that you might have, can feel a little uncertain, but for me, it's been a really critical lesson to be able to succeed in my role. Number 9 is to be present and genuine. This one, that's what I put this cartoon up there for. It's like, what are you bringing me now? The biggest complaint that I have, I'm an inveterate introvert, and the biggest complaint I ever come home with at the end of the day is, oh my God, they don't stop communicating with me. There is so much communication. It just never stops. And it can be really hard, certainly for me, to be able to face that next thing that walks in the door and put a smile on my face and give them sincere attention. I would much rather just live in a bubble and sit in front of my computer and do that. But I have also had experiences where, not in my current institution, our team seems to be pretty good about this, but where you're trying to talk with someone and they're looking at their phone or they're on the computer or they're clearly not giving you their focus and their attention. And I think that there's almost no easier way to disenfranchise people and to make them feel dismissed and not valued. So it is really hard. And I think even when you don't want to be, maybe especially when you don't want to be, because that's when you're most at risk of showing the eye roll that you're feeling, but you're not supposed to be expressing. And then Kathy, number 10, I think people who know me have seen this before. This is my mantra. This is, I should paint it on my office door. Actually, it is on the back of my office door. I think that sometimes it's important to remember that leadership, leadership can be crap sometimes. You have to be careful about what you step in and where you step. I think it's important to not take yourself too seriously. Those that shared tips about having fun, I am 100% on board with you. And I think this is part of it. Don't take it too seriously. Don't step in it. Now I'm going to go take Tylenol.
Lori, thank you so much. I hope you feel better. So thank you so much. Let's move on.